Welcome, CNG 124. Yeah, I was looking at it and I think I put the video for last week in the wrong spot. So what do we have going today? We are starting week 5, and this week is an important week for FRCC because you as a student should receive an email directing you to check your grades and make sure you're on course for the rest of the semester. So if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to give you a plan or help you redirect yourself to get the score you want. Reading through, now addressing last week's coursework, reading through, I'm glad this was easy for most. Did have a few questions on Packet Tracer. There wasn't really a turn-in. It's our introduction to Packet Tracer, so you download Packet Tracer, mess around with it a little bit. We do pick it up again later on, so if you do have time or find yourself looking for more ways to prepare yourself for this course, feel free to Google search Packet Tracer how-to videos. So if we go Packet Tracer videos, there are a lot more videos out there for people. They have different time lengths. I would suggest that you at least watch a couple more so you get the idea of how Packet Tracer is going to work. Realize that in 7.2 or in the 7 series, Packet Tracer did change looks. They are no longer gold and light blue. They are all blue now. So that is good. Last week, everyone said it was an easy week. That's good. If you said you had a little bit of hard time making the cables, that's okay. Make sure you just drop those off at any Front Range Community College and let them know that you're trying to get this to the instructor and to use the internal email system. That'll get those wires to me down here, and I'll take a look at them as they get here and grade them as they come in. Let's see. When we go to this week's content, we start to identify how all the items wrap together, and I left my initial video there from last week, so that's kind of different. But that was a different approach to it. I'll put this video in this area now, but that was the old one. I'll take out my old check-ins, but if you had a chance to see them, you'll see that this course, once I find a good way to deliver this course, it hardly ever changes. I just update the content. Let's see. We have our first test this week. Make sure to prepare for that. If you do forget the test for some reason, please don't send me an email saying you'd like to make up the coursework. As stated in the syllabus, there are no makeup for late assignments, but there is a way to supplement that score, and that's through Kaplan test prep software. This week we look at IP addresses, and we start to subnet. Or maybe I'm wrong. No, we start to subnet, yeah. So we look at subnet masks, subnetting in general, and start to pick out how to subnet. I'll leave my lab video 6 in there because that's still really relevant to this lab 6. But it's important for us to start looking at the material and say, okay, can I identify what kind of address this is? And from that identification, how do I need to modify the subnet mask in order for it to be the proper subnet mask that I'm looking for? When you look at the homework, and I'll open up the Word document. When you look up the homework, this is what I'm giving you here in this top row. I give you 197.310/24, so that's what I'm giving you. It is your job to then modify this to accommodate 28 hosts per subnet. When you start to cut the networks up, currently they're all going to be equal parts. So we need to make sure that in these equal parts, we have enough subnets for the entirety, and each subnet is going to fit the requirements of the subnet nodes that are needed or the hosts that are needed. When we go to basic subnetting, We see subnetting divides A, B, or C into smaller networks. The opposite of subnetting is supernetting, where you're creating a larger subnet for specific reasons. Here we have a breakdown of why subnet. 6 million hosts at a class A, 65,000 hosts at a class B, and of course at a class C we have 254 addresses. So we see how that interaction goes when we start to make these giant networks, or this big network, smaller. There is really no trick to subnetting. It's finding a way that works for you. I believe this table here is what most people work with. Once again, it's drawing your 8 lines out, and those 8 lines represent, in some cases, bit values. If we look at this slide here, we see that if we modify our 8 dashes, it can also mean total hosts per subnet on the first line, along with bit value. But on the second line, it can mean usable hosts. On the third line, if we start writing 2, 4, 6, 8, 16, 32, 64, that correspond with these individual lines. And this is a little bit out of, it's not divided perfectly, but feel free to download this slide and make the correct manipulations so that the columns are lined up. That would help you with this. But we get to see how many subnets there are. If we have this first bit marked as a 1, we can see that there's 2 subnets associated with 128. So if you actually multiply 128 by 2, we should end up with 256. And the same with each column thereafter. It should also make that mark. The subnet mask value then changes. Once again, modifying our topics. The subnet mask value here, 128. Of course, if we move here, it's adding 128 plus 64, which gives us 92, or 192. The third one, 224, is the culmination of this one, and that one. As we progress, you see the number going up. It's just we're adding the bit values together. And of course, at the bottom row, the prefix associated with each binary value as we move to the right. That's all I have for you for this week. Once again, as you start to work on the lab, make sure to dive into that practice sheet. That practice sheet has a lot of useful information. Where did I put it? Review. So here we have workbook assignments, page 7 and 15, through your IPv4 workbook. Complete page. This might be through, but this is a way for you to start practicing on identifying fixed block subnetting. This how-to step-by-step, something I pulled off the internet, explains it in another different way for you to learn that. Please use that if you need to. And that's all I have for this week. If you have any questions about your grade, feel free to email me. If by chance I enter a 0 in anything, understand that 0 is probably just a placeholder for me to keep up with the course itself. And that's really it. If you have any questions, let me know.